And there it is, Air Force One touching down right there on the ground in Houston. Greeting the president on the tarmac will be Governor Abbott. He is also there on the ground. The president's going to be traveling to the Ellington Field city in Texas, where he's going to meet and visit with people who are impacted by the hurricane. He's then going to head to a Harvey Relief Center. He'll meet with members of the Texas congressional delegation. When he was here earlier in the week, he received a great deal of criticism for not meeting with any of the evacuees or victims of Hurricane Harvey, that he met with officials, he got a briefing, and that he wasn't able to travel to any of the areas impacted. He did go to Austin and to Corpus Christi, which were areas that weren't as severely impacted by Harvey. So today he'll have a chance to do that over again. We do know the vice president was there on the ground in Texas meeting with folks, storm victims, and had a chance to really connect with the victims on the ground to explain how heartfelt, how his heart was bleeding for these folks and how they will be getting help. And that's a big concern. The Texas delegation obviously pushing for more aid, and exactly how that will happen, what bill that'll be attached to bring the people the relief and the efforts they want. That's something still yet to be seen. After he visits with the congressional delegation, he's going to go to Lake Charles, Louisiana, and that's where he'll meet with members of the County Emergency Operations Center, the National Guard, and of course the Cajun Navy. You might remember those folks who helped during Katrina, just citizens helping out citizens, and to give them a shot at exactly relief efforts when resources were very hard to get through. I want to bring in, joining us now, is Josh Meyer. He's senior investigative reporter from Politico. He joins me now. Josh, so the president reassured those affected that the federal government will in fact be there to help. What's the White House position on this when it comes to rebuilding southeastern Texas, and does it differ in any way from Congress?
You know, I don't think so. I mean, I think one of the hallmarks of the Trump administration is the president says something and then everybody has to try to figure out how to implement it and get the money for it. So he's already said that that their response is going to be bigger and better and faster than any others, and it's going to make everything right and fix everything. And so I think now people are scrambling to figure out how to do that. But you know, we'll learn a lot more today, I think, when he goes down there to see some of the details. I know he's meeting with the the delegations in Texas and Louisiana. So it's a moving target, I think.
There was a great deal of criticism that the president didn't meet with evacuees or victims of Harvey. Why do you think that was, that the White House chose not to? And we're looking at the live image there. You see Governor Abbott rolling up to the Air Force One right there with the president. Well, he'll be coming down. Why do you think it was that the president and the White House chose not to meet with the evacuees?
You know, it's a very good question. I think, we all sort of give them the benefit of the doubt in that they're a new administration. He did claim to come in and want to drain the swamp. So a lot of the people that he has working with him are not sort of veterans of this kind of thing. And, perhaps they just didn't know better. But the explanation that they didn't want to get too close to the rescue area and impact it, I don't think a lot of people buy that. I think that there's victims and rescue workers all around that he could have easily found. And the most important thing in these, I spent a lot of time in Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina, is the optics. And I think last week, one of the things that was the most important to me was the viral sort of, photograph that showed President Obama hugging a woman victim, President Clinton doing the same, and President Bush. They were all very empathetic, sort of the, consoler in chief. And then the photo of Trump was him waving from a limousine, I think. So, I think that they're going to try to correct that this time. I did notice, I believe, that he was wearing a suit, so I don't know if he's really ready to help, with some relief efforts, but we'll see. Yeah,
it's interesting as the stairs come down on Air Force One there. Yeah. The photograph from Katrina, you covered Katrina, that everyone remembers of George W. Bush is looking out of Air Force One down into the devastation.
Yeah.
What are the lessons from George W. Bush and Katrina, you covered it, that you think this White House can learn?
I think that staying power is really important. I think one of the problems with Katrina is, there's a lot of attention focused on it early on, and then, people sort of turn their attention to something else. And that's been happening at warp speed with this administration. There's so many different things for us to cover that, fixing the problem. I know right now that they just, upped the amount of money for the first ask from Congress to almost $8 billion. But this is going to be enormously expensive. One of the things that I've been struck by looking at the devastation is just how huge it is. I think it really almost makes Katrina look tiny when you see these flooded images. The other thing is the environmental catastrophe that's in the works here. Houston is a very, very industrial area, and you've got toxic mold and toxic, smoke and poisonous water and explosions, and that could get a lot worse, and that's going to A, cost a lot of money to fix, but B, I think that they need to implement stronger regulations to make sure that stuff doesn't happen, and the Trump administration is already very clearly saying they want to go in the opposite direction.
Yeah, that's not somewhere that they want to go.
Right.
When you talk about just how expansive the devastation it is and how much more extensive it is than Katrina, what are people saying on Capitol Hill about this? This is going to cost a great deal of money, and it's going to come at the cost of taxpayer dollars.
Yes, it's going to be huge. Sorry to borrow a Trump phrase, but yeah, I mean, I don't think people even, it's almost a cliche at this point, but people have no idea what the magnitude of this is yet. But when I see like entire neighborhoods underwater, water going up to the second floor windows of houses, I mean, just the mold, having to sort of redo all of that stuff. I mean, it's going to be probably by an order of magnitude more expensive than other disasters. I think people are really underestimating how much damage there is and how much it's going to cost to fix it.
And as the president is very close to coming down there on the stairs of Air Force One, what do you think he needs to achieve on this trip, Josh?
I think he needs Rena to correct the optics first and foremost. I think. I mean, it really is. I mean, I just in random conversations with people, remarking about the photo of him, waving from a limousine, or Melania in her stiletto heels. I mean, it might not be fair to remember that, but that is what people remember. And the photo of Obama comforting a woman. So I don't know, what kind of optics he's going to do. I mean, he's sort of known as a real hard-bitten, tough-talking guy. So if he starts trying to hug people, that could backfire.
Yeah.
If somebody recoils from that, then you'll have another iconic photo that they don't want. So I think that they have to try to, sort of reset this and show that he has compassion for people, and then of course get money and get an idea of how bad the situation is down there.
Trump does have, President Trump, as you see him coming down there, in a more casual outfit, both he and the First Lady, which makes me wonder if they will, in fact, be getting a little bit closer to some of the damage there.
Yeah.
One thing about him, Josh, is there's a level of authenticity. You might not like what comes out of his mouth, you might not like what he says, but he does what he wants to do. So, having him play a role of hugging people, I mean, if it doesn't feel right, does he run into problems with that too?
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely, and that is one thing about Trump is he is his own person, his own man. So, we've heard in just the last 24 hours that there's a lot of sort of friction between him and his new chief of staff, John Kelly, over that he doesn't like to be told what to do. Yeah. So he's certainly not going to start hugging people just because somebody tells him to, and I don't know if Kelly's going to do that either. So, but hopefully he'll just show some compassion. Again, I mean, he'll do what he wants to do, and he is nothing but not authentic. So, there are times when he really surprises people and he'll change his opinion, like with the Syrian, the chemical strike, at the drop of a hat, and he'll become very engaged and very emotional and very supportive of something. So, it's kind of all bets are off as to what happens, and, that, makes for good TV, certainly. So we'll watch. Reading in between the lines, as we sometimes try to do, I can see a member of the Secret Service there holding the door open for probably the First Lady or the President there, and far more casual garb, as you can see there, than their traditional Secret Service suits. And we should mention, to be honest with our viewers, that the White House has been a little bit more tight-lipped about the schedule now, which sometimes might mean that they could potentially go somewhere that we're unfamiliar with. As you watch the images here of the President getting on, and I believe we can't see it from the camera shot here, but likely speaking to the governor of Texas there. He has been in very close touch with the governor there. It's a Republican governor, and members of the state there. What is the sense with his relationship with folks, Republicans in particular, on Capitol Hill, and what are they saying about his handling of Harvey so far? I think they've reserved judgment so far. I mean, I think there were some people that were very quick to criticize his handling of Charlottesville and his refusal to distance himself from earlier remarks, and in fact to double down on them. Right now I think people are certainly giving him the benefit of the doubt. He does have a good relationship with the governor in Texas, less so, at least publicly, with Louisiana. But I think that he's he certainly seems to be engaged on that, and I think people are giving him credit for that. I think one of the issues, though, is whether or not he has the team in place to really deal with the nuts and bolts of this. I mean, I know that the the Homeland Security Secretary slot is open. It's an acting secretary, and Trump has said that he has he has respect and supports the acting Homeland Security Secretary, but he's clearly looking for a permanent person there. FEMA, there's some openings there, and in some other key government slots. So, I think people are waiting to see what happens, and it's not just what Trump does, but what the whole administration does, and it's going to be an enormously complicated, complex, and long, ongoing thing. So we're just at the very beginning of this.
President always ever minded that the cameras are rolling, came out and gave us a wave. I wonder if he knew that the cameras couldn't quite see exactly what was going on behind there.
Yeah.
Talk to me as we see First Lady Melania Trump there in that hat with the ponytail. The role of the First Lady in moments like these. She's been somewhat out of the spotlight. How influential can she be in a moment like this?
Well, first of all, she can be a humanizing touch for the president. I mean, I think that, Michelle Obama, over time, at some points, almost became more popular than the president himself, and sort of an empathizer with people. Melania has been very, very distant, as has been often noted. She has not adopted any kind of public, sort of issue or campaign to support. She's often not even there or at the president's side. So you've seen her a little bit more in the past week with him, perhaps being criticized by what she was wearing. But, I think today is another opportunity for her to sort of show that, that she's a real person, that she and the president are a real couple, and that they can empathize with the people down there who are suffering greatly. I mean, this is an enormous catastrophe and a calamity. I mean, when you just hear some of the stories of people, and I think it could get a lot worse. I mean, there's been dozens of deaths. But the ironic thing, I think, for somebody who's covered these is that there's not a lot more. I mean, you have a open, live wire in a flood like that, and you could kill dozens of people in one stretch. So I think so far we're lucky.